What's Bitcoin at? 16,000? It has another 17,000 to go down.
No, really?
Yeah.
I mean, you could just tell right there, just the way that he dryly says that, so matter of factly for Rogan to. It's almost like, and I really like Joe Rogan, so I don't in any way mean this condescendingly, but it's almost like candy with a baby right here. What is going on, guys? Broke Boi Crypto here with you again, and today we're going to take a look at what I think has been a growing sentiment bottom for this crypto bear market, if you even still want to define that we are in one right now. There's been a lot of things happening over the last couple of weeks, and it's just getting to the point where the majority of people, YouTube videos that you go to, podcasts that you listen to, traders, investors, whatever it may be on Twitter, anything that you look at, people are all bearish. Nearly everybody is still calling for 12K. Now, look, I'm going to tell you right now, I'm not saying that I think that is going to happen. And I'm just going to kind of show you the channel here. If you are new to the channel and just happen to catch this video, what kind of other things we do cover here before I get into the main topic. What we're going to do today is review a recent guest on the Joe Rogan Experience. It is Peter Zeihan. He has written multiple books. He's kind of a jack of all trades when it comes to geopolitical issues. He has a channel on YouTube, actually. Let me see if I can find it and even remember how to spell his name. Yep, that's it. So this is him over here. So Zeihan on Geopolitics. And he's a really smart guy, unbelievably smart. One of the most intelligent sounding guests, anyway, that I have heard on Rogan, and there's been many, and they had a great discussion for a couple of hours, but specifically at the end of it, they talked crypto for about 5 minutes, okay? I know a lot of people are going to key in on that part of the interview, but I am going to today in a moment, and I'm going to tell you why I think it's part of a sentiment bottom. But yeah, you're seeing people everywhere that are essentially just saying that the bottom is that we still have a lot lower to go, essentially, okay? And I feel like people are just like grasping for any negative story possible. You know, we are so there's just so much going on. You know, since the FTX thing, everybody is just scared. They constantly think there's going to be another leg down. It's almost like an entire exchange going down like that, and the disaster that was Sam Bankman-Fried is going to just be commonplace now. Binance is going to go down. What's the big next leg down? And again, I'm not saying that we can't get lower in this bear market, but there is just so much of that sentiment out there. This story came up a little while ago. So Crypto.com will delist Tether in Canada to comply with Ontario's regulatory and stop facilitating transactions associated with USDT by the end of January. People are kind of flipping out about this. I mean, big deal. So Tether is one of multiple different stable coins you can use. It's one exchange, Crypto.com, that I'll just say is not my favorite. And Canada limiting something that people used to be able to do all the time. Not exactly headline news. So it's just like people are grasping for anything. So well, more coming in as I sit here. And I'm at this point that I don't even know what could happen that could make the market go down to reach, heavy new lows in the midst of the bear market here. I mean, we've seen an entire exchange collapse. I don't see anything worse than that happening. And some of these other things like DCG and Genesis and things like that, I just don't think it's going to have this kind of impact like we saw with FTX. Like nothing bigger is going to happen. And not only that, even if something, I'm going to say on par even with FTX happened, because that's really like almost a black swan-ish type of event. If something even, 50%, 75% of that magnitude happened, I still don't know that just because it's just as big of an issue that would take us even lower. People's sentiment, I hate to say that everything is priced in, but we're getting to the point where people are just kind of used to this happening, and the market is what matters. The market is what is efficient, not just like what you think they'll do in response to how, the gravity of a certain story coming out, okay? I'm not a perma bull or anything like that. I'm not even necessarily bullish. I'm just saying that I think that people are just constantly looking for the next thing. We have been here. If you want to mark, let me actually pull up the Bitcoin chart. So if you want to pull up the Bitcoin chart, I mean, so a lot of people are I think there's two ways to look at this. I mean, you can look right here in November of 2021. Was that 21? Yeah, it was. Wow. Yeah, we're a year and a half out from there now. A lot of people are marking this as like the descent and the beginning of the bear market. And for obvious reasons, 2022 obviously was absolutely terrible. But you could also look the whole way back here to what would have been April/May-ish of 2021 when we first got into the 60Ks. And look at this as kind of a retest, even though, I guess Bitcoin fairly well did beat that price, but it was kind of a double top. I mean, you could look at this as kind of the beginning of the bear. So you could actually go the whole way back to like spring of 2021, whatever you want to do. But to me, all I'm saying is that gives even more credence to like that. I think that this pattern has to be ending soon at this point. So, I mean, you can sit there and hold all your dry powder and wait for like way lower prices, but I just think it's getting the reward heavily can outweigh the risk at this point for me anyway, in my opinion. Okay, so let's come over here now. This is Peter Zeihan, again, geopolitical author, was on Joe Rogan here within the last couple of weeks. I want to hear what they get into with crypto at the end. Now, I'm just going to say, again, this guy really, really smart. Definitely confused Rogan on many counts. I do think he has a little wee bit of a condescending tone at times, and he liked to throw out a lot of kind of smack you in the face, shock jock headlines sometimes, just for Rogan to give one of his like, one of those reactions. But then after he would do it, he would kind of break things down and explain them in a little bit more detail. So I think he liked to kind of really, he gets off on shocking a little bit like that, but then he would break things down further. So this is after a long conversation. Again, this is right at the end of the podcast. So I'm not going to act like this is the sole thing they were talking about, but let's hear this and react to it.
Crypto.
Yeah, it was always a hot dumpster fire.
Always?
Yeah, I'm not going to say that it was all fraud. Some of it was a pyramid scheme. There's never been anything there. It serves no purpose. It's not a store of value. It's not a medium of exchange. And as we have seen, if you want it decentralized and not under government control, it is a haven for fraudsters. And now it is in the process of going to zero, except for Bitcoin, which will probably go negative, because if we're moving into a world with carbon taxes, you have to take into account the energy that it took to produce it in the first place.
Okay, so we've heard this going to negative thing. Forbes actually put their necks on the line and even wrote an article about this too. Now, I don't even know what that means. Like, if somebody can educate, like, what would it look like? And I'm literally asking this. Go ahead and leave it in the comments. When people say the carbon tax is going to make it go negative, what does that mean? Like, it doesn't. It doesn't. I get it, I guess. Like somebody somewhere would owe money because of the taxes after Bitcoin hypothetically hits zero. We have heard this said countless times. 14 years in at this point. This is bottom of a bear market talk. You look correct because the world is crumbling all around you. It's not like a bad day in the stock market where it's down 2 or 3 or 5% or something like that. The asset is down like 75%. There's blood in the streets, people, all kind of disasters out there. And one of the big things he said there too, it's not a store of value. It's not a means of currency. One man or woman or person or whatever could sit there and say, it has no intrinsic value. There's no value to it, blah, blah, blah. But the thing that he is missing here is there is a market, though, and a gigantic one that does believe it is a store of value. Obviously, if you watch this channel, you're not just into Bitcoin, you're into a lot of other cryptocurrencies as well. But if there is a market of people that actually want to invest in it, and trust me, there are millions and millions, obviously, as we know, people and large entities that are attached to this technology, they disagree with you, and it's a growing market. We have seen that year over year over year. So while we are in the blood in the streets territory right now, you can't, as one person, say that something isn't a store of value if people in mass agree that it is a store of value. It's just what the market says.
Well, that's certainly playing out with like FTX, where you're finding out that it's a house of cards. Do you feel like that's just sort of opened the door for people to examine all of crypto now?
Oh yeah, Absolutely. It's like as soon as you have one of the big ones go down, it's just
go down catastrophically within a week.
Yeah, I mean, just there's no intrinsic value to this asset, and now it's stuck.
So once again, that's exactly what I'm talking about. There's no intrinsic value to this asset. If people disagree with you and people want it and buy it, there is. That's just the way it is. You know, we talk a lot about Hex, obviously, on this channel, and a lot of haters. There's a lot of people who don't like Hex. Well, it's got a feverish community, and a lot of people are invested in it. And if they like it, it's going to go up. Same thing with Zen. Everybody hates on Zen. A lot of people in the Hex community hate on Zen for some reason. If there are people that want it, doesn't matter what the chart's saying right now.
Are going to be priced appropriately. So it has what's Bitcoin at? 16,000. It has another 17,000 to go down.
No. Really?
Yeah.
I mean, you could just tell right there, just the way that he dryly says that, so matter of factly for Rogan to. It's almost like, and I really like Joe Rogan, so I don't in any way mean this condescendingly, but it's almost like, candy with a baby right here. You know, it's just like, what can I say to bait this guy? All right, I've got him in the palm of my hand. What can I say to really get a reaction out of him? You know, and then he explains it a little bit more thoroughly, but it's just a funny phenomenon to me.
There's no intrinsic value to this product.
And do you think that people just inherently lost faith in the idea behind crypto because of FTX?
Well, it became an ideology. Whenever you invest based on an ideology, you're going to make some decisions that are a little divorced from math.
And what do you mean by ideology?
Well, the people who really like crypto are convinced that it's the currency of the future and that a decentralized ledger is the way to go, and that anything that is controlled by a government entity is by definition negative, and if it's done by the private sector freely, it will be better. And that's just not how currency works. Currency is a method of exchange and a store of value. And for that, there has to be a degree of trust. And you have to have it managed in terms of volume. And one of the craziest things about Bitcoin is that there will never be more than X number of units of Bitcoin. Well, by default, that means it can't be used for trade, because the whole idea of economic activity is that there's expansion, which means you need more currency to lubricate and manage that expansion. If currency is locked into a specific number, you get monetary inflation, and that is one of the fastest ways to destroy an economic model.
All right. So the whole point there. So first off, people aren't necessarily using it for trade. It is more, Bitcoin obviously failed as a means of exchange. That's not what it is now. The definition keeps changing over time. And I do think that's why, part of the reason why, it's also just advancing in cycles, but that's why the value of it isn't, each cycle is a little bit less, is basically what I'm trying to say. But to me, he kind of contradicts himself here. So on one hand, a couple of sentences ago, he said that he said it many times. It's going to go to zero. It's going to go negative, yada, yada, yada. And now, because there are only a set amount of BTC available to get in the world, the price can only go up. Well, okay, so the price of it goes up, but it's going to zero because there's no value and it's going negative. It just seems like a lot of these statements that we hear over the years when it comes to Bitcoin. Let's continue.
Because of the lack of Bitcoin, because there's a certain controlled number, the only thing that can happen is Bitcoin becomes more expensive.
Right. And that means that the people who...
But it's going to go to zero.
Older are the ones that make the money, but everyone else suffers. I'm sorry, that's not viable. The alternative is you have some private dude out there who generates the coins on a whim. How is that different from the monetary reserve or the monetary authorities that we have at the Federal Reserve, except for the point that there's no accountability? No.
Now, a lot of people have concern that the United States is trying to generate a centralized digital currency that they will control.
The Federal Reserve disagrees with that statement.
What do you mean?
Well, they don't see a purpose. They don't see what need it fills. So there may be an argument for the Chinese doing a digital yuan so they can monitor each and every transaction. But, conspiracy theorists are going to conspiracy. That's
I was reading mainstream articles about the United States confirming that they're trying to develop a centralized.
If you're talking about a digital exchange system, then I can see that. But something separate from the USD, no.
This is what
This now just basically goes into Jamie trying to find articles. So that is the gist of it, though. To me, it's just another one in a long line of sentiment bottom signals. And again, I know that we have a lot of different stuff going on in this market. You know, I know there's a lot of different things people look at, a lot of different storylines, a lot of the charts. I mean, it's still trading below some very important moving averages. Okay. So I'm also not guaranteeing anything here. Obviously, I'm not saying that it can't go lower. It's just at this point, the reward in buying the assets that you are really into right now is just massively, to me anyway, that I'm interested in, outweighing the risk. That's just where I'm at. So I'm not saying necessarily that I'm going to ape into every single thing there is out there. There's just, it's not really unpopular to be a bear anymore. I mean, just check a couple. I'm just going to pull them up. And if you want to go ahead and check the accounts of a few people who, since I think probably June of 2022, have been saying the same thing. Just kind of constantly. This actually was supposed to happen by the end of 2022 in this person's opinion. It's just, you know, constant, the same thing. Now this is one Twitter account, but obviously you guys know some of these accounts probably. And I respect these people. Like, I'm not even necessarily saying everything negative about them, you know, but these people have been saying this stuff for over 6 months, you know, and we've had some massive capitulation. And yeah, it could possibly happen again. But hey, I mean, this is now the common opinion. You go on YouTube videos and look at comments and stuff. Even people that have been in crypto for a little while are actually involved in crypto, not just a bystander like Peter Zeihan that we just looked at. They all agree with this. So it's kind of just the normal sentiment. So that's pretty much it, guys. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. Again, I'm not turning into a permabull or anything like that, but I just, you know, to me, it's like we're pretty much here and we've been here for quite some time at this point. So, hey, if you like the video, like it, subscribe to the channel as well. I appreciate it. Hit the notification bell. You can follow me on my Twitter there too, at Boi Crypto. So once again, thank you all for watching, and I will catch you in the next one.